Good morning everyone, and welcome to a beautifully sunny Bewdley Pines Golf Club. It is quite windy today and I don't quite have the equipment to get this set up nice and beautifully, so I have got it facing me from the floor, but it will allow me to still go through everything that I need to do in order to do my explanation and demonstration for the pitch shot today. So I did post one video already, and the PGA had deemed that as my level 2 as not competent, and the reason for that is I didn't go into great detail about the impact factors. So you can imagine what I'm going to do today is go into all of that detail to be able to tick those boxes and then allow me to move on with my level 2 coaching. So the first thing is, what is most important when we talk about the pitch shot? What is the pitch shot? That's the first thing. Most people would describe it as a shot that spends more time in the air than it does along the ground. Now you may be thinking, well, that happens with most of my full shots anyway, so what's the difference? The pitch shot is all about shots that are inside your full wedge distance. So what some people may really classify as the scoring zone, where it's really important that we control our distance as well. So in order to do that, we have three main points that we try and hit in terms of a pitch shot backswing and through swing. So we've got a 9 o'clock position. This is where our hands travel to 9 o'clock, and what we see is I've created a great L angle here with the club, and as we go through I'm also trying to create it to that 9 o'clock position again, a lovely L angle. Next position, 10 o'clock. You can see my hands are now at 10 o'clock, and as I come through I'm trying to replicate that on the other side. This is all about controlling the distance. Again, third position is 11 o'clock. You can now see my hands are at 11 o'clock and I'm coming through and getting back to an 11 o'clock position. A pitch shot will never go from full 12 o'clock through to 12 o'clock, because then I'm just getting back into my full swing. So what's really important about this shot is that as a beginner, and pretty much for a very long period in our golfing career, if we use one club only for the pitch shot, we develop a lot more consistency in terms of distance, and this is extremely important. The pitch shot is all about accuracy and getting our distances right, whether we've got a bunker to go over, we've got to get it to land softly on the green. We need the distance to be right, and this is why we practice at that 9, 10 and 11 o'clock position and reference back once we get the consistent strike how far those swings take us, and then from there we can use that as our grounding point to be able to hit the shots the distance that we want to. So what's similar, what's different to a normal full shot? Well, firstly, let's talk about the aim. So the aim of the club itself and the club face angle should be square to our target line. The reason for that is what we want to encourage is a centeredness of strike. As we know, when the ball comes out the center of the golf club, this is when it travels at its fastest speed, but also if we keep hitting it out the center of the club, we get consistency. We get consistency of speed and therefore consistency of distance. So when we're also talking about this, we're looking at the dynamic loft aspect of the shot. So when our club face is square to our target, we are delivering it back square to the target. What we're creating is a consistent dynamic loft. If it's open and remaining open, we are having more dynamic loft, which is going to send the ball higher as long as we've got a centeredness of strike, but also should travel a shorter distance. So the centeredness of strike and that club face angle is very, very important when we're talking about dynamic loft. So when we've got those married up, a consistent dynamic loft, a consistent centeredness of strike, we have a position where we can start developing consistency with our pitch shot. So the hold, we'll move on to that. So the hold is exactly as normal. So what we find is that position where the club face is square, as we've talked about already, but our hold is also neutral to that. What's also imperatively important is the pressure that we hold this club with. We shouldn't be strangling the club, and we shouldn't be holding it too light that it's going to make our wrist go all loosey-goosey and we have that kind of position. It should be a nice light hold on the club, but most imperatively, it's in the same position consistently. This same position ensures that the club head travels similar distances. If I choke down, you can see how that club head's traveled a lot lower than if I'm halfway up the grip. So what we're trying to find is a consistent hold. So what does that help with? That helps with speed. So that helps with the speed that we're going into the ball. It also helps with the club face angle. So when our grip or our hold is consistent, we have a consistent club face angle, which then leads to consistent dynamic loft. You will understand that I keep saying the word consistent. Now, that's a personal preference of mine, but a lot of clients that I have come to me talk and say the word, I want more consistency. So really these impact factors I'm relating back to consistency. So another option with that, ball position. So what we tend to find is that with our normal golf shot, say a 7-iron, we want it in the center of our stance. This is exactly the same with all of our pitches. Our hands are slightly ahead, so there's a little bit of shaft lean to encourage a downward strike. But what we've also got is this ball position being, again, consistent. When we move it around to the back of our stance or the front of our stance, we're affecting dynamic loft. We can also affect slightly the centeredness of strike. So that can also go when we start moving around with ball position. Again, it's down to consistency, but very important is that angle of approach. Our pitch shot, we should always be hitting down, so it should be ball and then turf. That downward angle is so important to getting consistent pitches and moving on through the development of the game. So now we're talking about body alignment. An interesting one, this. When speaking to a few amateurs before I did this video, I asked them, what do you think the body alignment with the pitch shot does? And I talked through why you were open or to stand open, and asked them why. And nobody really gave me an answer that I would say is accurate to what we're looking for. So that was probably the biggest area where I found there was some inconsistency from amateur golfers, only the few that I canvassed. But when you've got the club face square and your body square, what we're looking for in the pitch shot is to slightly withdraw the left foot and the left hip. Now, a lot of amateur golfers have said to me that helps you cut across the ball. Now, that could be the case in their mind, but ultimately the reason we are withdrawing our left hip and our left foot is to help with the turn through the shot. Because this is a smaller swing than our full swing, we tend to limit our turn, and this turning the chest through to the target is extremely important on creating consistency with the pitch shot. So that is why we withdraw that left foot. So what you've seen with that is our alignment of the club face is exactly the same. Our shoulders are exactly the same in terms of what we would do with a full shot. Our ball position would be the same as we have with a 7-iron, so that's a good one to reference back to. And then what we're looking for is to slightly withdraw that left hip and left foot, and this allows us to get a nice consistent turn through the ball and ensure that our body doesn't stop and our hands carry on, which is a very common fault that we see in amateur golf. So stance and posture, a couple of very important things to talk about. We're in our same posture, lovely and athletic, but what we're also looking at is as the distance of the swing increases, we're getting closer to our shoulder width stance that we'd see in a full swing. Now, when we've got a shorter pitch shot, our feet are nice and close together. There's a big reason for this, and it's greatly important when we're talking about impact factors and the angle of approach. So 60% of our weight should be in on that left side. We should be hitting down on the ball then turf, and this 60% weight into the left side and that address is crucially important to that. So that helps with our angle of approach. It also helps with our centeredness of strike. It ensures that we're getting the club into the center of that strike position. Now, Greatly important when we were talking about body alignment. Again, I'll just reference it because I may not have quite covered it in enough detail. The reason we keep our shoulders square to the line is so that we can create that into square to in swing path. So when we're doing that, we're creating a consistent swing path, center of strike's good, and the speed is staying at a consistent distance. So this stance, posture, body alignment, ball position, hold is all extremely important, and all areas that PGA coaches will take you through with the pitch shot. So now I'm going to go and demonstrate 2 pitch shots. I'm going to talk you through them piece by piece as I do it. So my setup, I've got my club face square to the target. The ball is in the center of my stance and my shaft lean is slightly forward. The reason for this: center of stance helps with angle of approach. Hands slightly forward helps with angle of approach. Centered of my stance helps with centeredness of strike. It also helps with my angle of approach. Now from here, I'm going to withdraw my left foot, and that slightly withdraws my left hip. And again, this allows me to turn through the shot, create a consistent speed, and speed consistency equals distance consistency. So it's very important. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. My hold is going to be consistent. So I'm about 1 inch down from the top of the grip. That's where I find myself most comfortable hitting my pitch shots. It's important to kind of note at this point that that may not be the most comfortable position for you. You may want to be slightly further down on the club. That's perfectly fine, but make sure you come back to a consistent position. So in this, I'm trying to create the L to L position, and I go through. And notice when I took my practice swing, I actually made contact with the floor. Now that shows me that my angle of approach is consistent and good. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to set up square to the target, shoulders are square, and then I slightly withdraw my left foot, my left stance. I've got a nice consistent hold, lovely light grip, and again I'm going to go to the 9 o'clock position and through to the 9 o'clock position, and that created a lovely pitch shot that went close to the flag. So again, I'm going to do this one more time. I'll talk you through it again. So club face is square to the target, consistent dynamic loft. Ball position, middle of the stance, consistent dynamic loft. You see where we're going from here. Weight 60% on the left side, angle of approach really important. So all of these are hitting these areas. Shoulders being nice and square allows for the club path to travel on the in to square to in path to create consistency. Again, that word consistency. Hold just 1 inch down from the grip. I know this is very repetitive and long, but this hits all the impact factors that we're looking at. Again, weights in on the left side, 9 o'clock to 9 o'clock. And as you can see, I've hit 2 consistent shots there just past the pin.